And so we want to move on very quickly to a framing presentation by Dr. Lusike Wasilwa of KALRO. And Dr. Wasilwa is the Director, Crop Systems of Kenya at KALRO. And she provides leadership in integrated agriculture, horticulture, staple and industrial crops research that develops products along the value chains and increased commercialization. She holds a postdoctorate in plant pathology from Rutgers University, New Jersey, PhD in plant science and an MSc in horticulture from the University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, and a BSc in agriculture from University of East Africa, Baraton. Recently, her research efforts focus on mainstreaming underutilized fruits to contribute to food, nutrition, income security, and the enrichment of our environment. And are you getting ready? Yeah. All right. Okay. So Dr. Wasilwa is going to be coming to make her presentation. It's a framing presentation as we get to move on. After her presentation, we will go for a group picture, and then we will have a walkthrough at the exhibition area, and after that, then we'll have a cup of tea. Let's put our hands together to welcome Dr. Lusike to share her presentation.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I had sent my presentation to Roberta just a few minutes ago, hoping that she would pass it on, but that wasn't the case. I'm really honored to be given the chance to set the stage. When I look at the audience and some of the people here, I'm wondering, why me? I am totally intimidated, but I'll face it like a lioness on the Serengeti plains, the hunter. So I'm really grateful. This is horticulture, and I've been away from horticulture meeting for quite some time. So it was so exciting to come. Actually, I left a meeting where we're formulating our second KALRO strategic plan and came here by force. I said there's no negotiation here. Horticulture, when it calls, I jump. To set the stage, first of all, I was given a very sexy title, so you better soak it in and understand the issue of youth inclusivity, competitiveness, and resilience of the sector, the horticulture sector. Soak that in first. You have to understand the title. It took me 3 days just looking at that title to say, what? Continue. 3 days. Then I said, okay, let me start. So I thought, maybe I'm following on to what Professor Atchison has just said, mentioning the Vision 2030 Agenda 2063 and the issues of what's affecting Africa. Can you imagine going to bed hungry? Can you imagine that now, in this day and age? Can you imagine anywhere in Africa there's some crop that grows that will provide some level of nutrition, but the populations are not getting them? Can you imagine, even when we have these crops, these horticultural crops, where the markets? We can't get to the markets. Who's trading? Who's there in the market? Who controls the market space? Then, even when we're able to grow these crops, we can't control the weather. Most of our farming is rain-fed agriculture, so we have issues of drought, we have issues of pests, we have issues of diseases. And then, where are our researchers? Why are they not providing for us these resilient, drought-tolerant crops? Where are they? How will Africa invest in trade and investment? How, when those constraints I've just said are there? How will Africa be able to trade amongst itself before it even thinks about trading with those overseas? How will we be able to do this? How can we make sure we don't lose what we're growing to post-harvest losses, food loss, food waste, so that it is there with us to value add and also to trade with. Because whatever we're growing, we need a surplus to trade to form income. When will Africa ever do that? Next. I'm setting the stage. I'm getting into the mojo so you now know where we're coming from. We have issues of limited varieties. It's a big issue. I know in maize, for example, Kenya, we have 355 maize varieties. So what? 77% is one variety growing in Kenya. There are 355. Nobody cares. Our soils, we keep growing the same thing. For 120 years, we've been growing the same crops on the same oil, mining the soil, and not even feeding it so that it can be healthy. So our soils are now unhealthy. When we look at agronomic practices, you keep on seeing gaps, good agriculture practices, gaps, good agronomic practices. Who's practicing them? What is the adoption level? Pests and diseases, every day there's a new one. Tuta absoluta, Saddam, what is the other one? Even the farmers give them other names. The one that eats up everything. Saddam Hussein or Osama. They say Osama came and ate everything. It's a big problem. Issues of post-harvest handling and storage. We are so used to losing that you don't even notice. You see a woman in a market standing on a foot of something. When you look at it properly, it was once something being sold. It was lost. When we lose 30%, 40%, 60% according to Jane and Book of Mango of what we're growing, we just say 60%, but when you translate the 60% into money, you have 100 million and you are losing 60 million. Now the African wakes up. What? Yes, that's what we're talking about. How do we stop that loss? The issue of climates. How do we now develop climate-smart technologies and make sure that they've been adopted so that we now start impacting positively on the yields so that we have increased yields? Continue. To be able to do this, we have to have policies. One thing in the EAC, we have many policies. One country that is known for writing policies in Kenya, we are the experts. And people come and borrow Nigerians. Even at times they forget to remove Kenya. They borrow from Asia, everything. We write them, but how to implement them? EAC now is a policy-making organ. Making them. But for them to be implemented, problem. These are just some of them. Just some of them. The one, the nutrition strategy, fruit and vegetable strategy, industrialization. I was recently involved in the potato strategy. We are doing these strategies. If you see what's in them, the constraints, what we need to do, you'll say, why are we still developing? Why are we still? And in all of these strategies, you see this issue of value addition. I'm now bringing in the youth, where the youth can now come in. Some of us are such analogs, we even refuse to understand how Hoover works. But a youth, by now, if my niece was there, should have been already on just going. She didn't even read that instruction. Differences. And yet, it's all about digitization. That's where we're going. That's what we have to do. So how do we change? How do we embrace? How do we take these technologies onto the ground so they're now making sense? How do we make EAC an engine of economic growth? We know the contribution of horticulture in these EAC economies. It's quite high. In Kenya, it's between 37 to 40% contribution to the agriculture GDP. How do we use it to generate income and opportunities in this particular region? How do we increase the use of more mechanization in horticultural production? How do we then now, when we have all these products, how do we get them to the market? And then when we're doing this, how do we ensure that women and youth are involved and vulnerable, marginalized groups are involved in those value chains? How can we do this? Next. And do we have to do it? Yes, we have to do it. Because when you look at the EAC, we have a population of about 177 million. That's before Congo came in. So now we're about 286 million. That is the market base of next door. But it doesn't mean we only trade within the EAC. We can also trade out of the EAC. And that's what we're doing with Europe, with South, South, North, North. How do we take advantage of this? Then when you look at the population of the EAC, it says that by 2030, 32% of the communities in the EAC will be in an urban setting, meaning you're in some apartment or something. If you see Nairobi now, it's just tall buildings everywhere. It means we have to buy food and get it and eat it. And now with COVID, and I thank that disease, I lost many people, but it has made people learn how to eat healthily. How do they get nutritious foods to those urban settings? 32% is the average for EAC. Kenya is predicted that by 2030, 62%. They keep going between 37 and 62, but me, I'll go for the high one because of what we're seeing now. In another 8 years, in another 8 seasons of rain, the long rains, forget about the short ones, they're unpredictable now. Will we be able to feed our people? Continue. I'm not reached 5 minutes. And then, or is it 10? My timekeeper is not doing this. Okay, so now, when we look at the issues of health, people are now aware of what they're eating. They want to know that they're eating more healthy. In Kenya, there's a thing called dawa, which is ginger, lemon, honey. And at times they put a bit of sugarcane juice because sugarcane juice is good for your kidneys. All of a sudden, people know what the food they're eating is about. How do we take advantage of that? Because horticulture is all about just nutrition. How do we take advantage and feed those consumer preferences of what they want to eat now? It's so sad now that the cost of foods have gone up and that a lot of youth want to just eat fast foods. But how can we make those fast foods nutritious fast foods? How can we do that, Jane Nambuko? I'm asking you. I saw your products out there. How can they be fast? I'm intending on tasting them and seeing how fast it took for them to be prepared. And then the issues of high-value agriculture. Horticulture is high value. That's where everybody's going. Nobody wants to plant maize. You plant so many acres and you get nothing. And horticulture, you just plant a small little plot, 10 by 3, and you're making the same amount as an acre of maize. How much labor did you put in that 10 by 3? Next. So we have to think. We have to think. We have a lot of species of plants in the EAC, but we're only consuming 1,000 of them. Are those 1,000 enough? In Kenya, we have 423 fruits that we can eat, but of those 423 fruits, only 46 of them are being commercialized. So is that good? What are we doing in terms of our biodiversity? Then when you look at the contribution to the GDP, I've just said that. The issue of high earning, we all know that fruits and vegetables will earn you 60 times more than a cereal like maize. The Kikuyu in Kenya is saying, kabesha, more money. I mean, seriously. Even me, I want to drive a Prado. I want to drive a Prado. So all I have to do is do horticulture, and that's why I'm here in this meeting. There are a lot of jobs horticulture can produce, and not only jobs. When they looked in ESG in terms of industrialization, what are those 5 areas that we can start promoting? Horticulture is one of them. And one of those areas in horticulture is production of juices, the juice pulps, juices, fruit juices. That's a very big opportunity for Kenya, and actually for the ESC. So then how? We're importing a lot from Uganda, we're importing a lot from Tanzania. How can we commercialize this food subsector as being one of the pillars for the ESC? Next. I now need to go faster. We have a lot of challenges. Continue going. Many, many, many challenges. We have the issues of consumption. How do we get people to eat more? And when we get them to eat more, can we produce the more that the eating is generating? And then when you look at where you see the horticulture subsector in Kenya grows every 5 to 12% annually. But when you're looking at what is the growth is actually in area under production. It's not increase in production and productivity. The land is becoming less. How do we increase production and productivity? How do we reduce post-harvest losses? I've talked about that. When you look at our horticulture subsector, the majority are smallholder farmers. Most of these smallholder farmers will seldom buy inputs. How do we get them to use those inputs And if they are they able to access them? Then the issue of fragmentation. So the smallholders have to be in groups so that you can be able to aggregate and take this product or produce to the market. How do we then now factor in that cluster effect? Because the smallholders are not going anywhere. Then the issue of low production productivity, I re-emphasize, how do we increase that? And in all these areas, the youth are coming in. Next. I can't see, you have to write it. So now we come to the issues of food safety. Food safety is key now. There are all these things that are flying in Kenya, and I bet it must be in other countries. Oh, what are you eating? You're eating pesticides and all of that, and whatever. And now we're trying to promote more eating of horticultural crops. Me, I don't eat kale because of some of the data I see on that. Fruits, I know I can peel and then eat what is inside, and therefore I control that, but there's a washing that comes with it. Now that we want to eat more healthily, all of a sudden there are these organic markets coming, but usually organic foods is how we produce, because we don't use a lot of inputs. So then what do we do? Continue. So we have all these challenges. The issue of how do we value add, issues of marketing, issues of supply chain and information. How do we impact on that? Next. Oh, go. Now I'm moving. Okay, so the youth ask, where am I? How do I come in? Go. No, you've jumped one that you have to see. People have to see I have a beautiful niece, and she's very good at value adding. So the next, even this one is my niece. Next. I'm showing we've got good genetics. So when you're looking at the amount of youth in the EAC is about 30-something% in these countries. You have all these youth. There are many. They need something to do, but they are very innovative also. Continue. They are very. So the youth agenda has begun. It is moving. We're using the youth to gather information. We're using them to help us start different businesses. We're using youth in trade. We're also using them in trying to really help in strengthening our value chains. And we're succeeding. But how long will this take? Let's continue. When we're looking at the youth, for example, I had to give something that I like so much. This is gooseberry, or some people call it Cape gooseberry. Go to the next slide. Imagine this is in Wasingishu, Kenya, in Eldoret. They are growing Cape gooseberry on 20 to 50 acre plots. Did you know that, you Kenyans? You didn't know. But imagine we're doing that. This thing is growing. Attributes to me, yours truly. Keep going. Why are you going off when I'm getting into the juice? Hey, this thing is whatever. Imagine Cape gooseberry. Everybody's growing avocado, mango, boring crops. They are for export. How about these crops that are very nutritious like gooseberry? Why are they not being grown? Guava, jackfruit, fruit of the year in India 2019. Why are we not growing these crops? And they are very, very nutritious. So when you look at those crops being grown, or you look at South Sudan, he'll move. I know the slides that we're following. South Sudan now, they're growing huge hectareages of jackfruit, pixie, they're growing papaya, huge areas, and they're using plastic mulch, using automated irrigation. South Sudan, I'm not talking about Kenya. With that in place, how do we then best give the information to those farmers to grow like that, to grow using sophisticated systems? The only people capable to do that are the youth. The youth are the ones that you can easily train, they understand, they use technologies, using digitization, to be able to use that technology for extension, use that technology to inform in terms of amount of water, use that technology for marketing, use that technology so that we have proper packaging. It's only the youth now that are being produced by the universities that can be trained because they are smart, they have smartphones, phones, and they can be able to get information and move it to wherever it needs to do very fast. So we need to use youth and integrate them in our production systems for horticulture, because horticulture is a high value. It doesn't need a lot of space. Most of the youth don't have land, but what they have is what the older farmers, who an average of 62 to 70 years old, are not using. So those old-aged farmers need these young youth with the technologies that they have to be able to then optimize production systems and therefore contribute to increased productivity, but also ensure that they're able to get to the market. So youth come in because now it's all about digitization. That is what is now holding and running the future. And in Kenya, yeah, just keep going, just keep going. Just keep going. Now stop here. No, go back one, because you have to see this. When we're trying to say involve the youth, it is so scary. And I said we already began involving them. This is the case for potato, and this is actual data that was done in the EAC. When you look at the age, below 35 is orange. And you look at the seed production of potato, growers of potato, traders of potato, and input suppliers. Input suppliers, there is absolutely no youth. The youth are more in trading. They want to make money. So for them to do that, they're using digital technologies. Continue. So how do we get them, youth, in all these areas in terms of finance, logistics, the big data, to be able to make sure that we're promoting the increased production and productivity of horticulture? Continue. I've only 3 minutes. The issue is of data. How we use them. When we generate the data in academia and research, and then how do we get this data so that it gets down to the ground where it's needed? Continue. You know, when you look at the technologies we have, it is so shocking. This is for potato. Of all the potato varieties that have been developed, in Kenya there's 61, actually now there's 69, and only 15 have been adopted. That number did not change. Burundi, you can see 18.5. The adoption is so low. How do we get the youth in to get these varieties that have been released to be adopted? It's by helping them, for them coming in, collecting data, providing that data, having good policy briefs to be able to trigger a positive response. Continue. So if we're able to do this, because it's all about digitization, and then the issues of technologies and data, the issue of being able to contribute to sustainability, we need to do something, and to be able to do this, we must involve our youth. After they come out with their degrees, how do they contribute to this next? So that when we're able to do this, because it's quite a lot of information we have, the issues of extension, the youth come in there again, you'll get this presentation. I want to go to I've only got 2 minutes. So that when we're able to work with the youth by including them in our horticulture activities, then youth can be used in terms of helping our technology to be adopted, in capacity building, in the issues of production and processing, particularly processing innovations. There are many, and you see them out there today. Developing diversified products. There's some nice mango wine there. I wish I could drink. I would have stolen a bottle when I went to the toilet, but I don't drink. And then linking the youth to horticulture. That is what we need to do. Continue. So that when we're able to do this, we're able to expand the farmer business model. My parents, from the time they accepted technologies from last year, they are shocked. And imagine for them, I'm a youth and I'm above 50. So using the youth to help farmers in adopting the technologies and then also linking them to the market. Me as a youth, I've helped my parents and changed a farm that was just maize that now is now growing 10 products. So let's continue going so we can get to the end. So why the youth? There are many. They are educated. They have smartphones. They can adopt emerging technologies, and those technologies can be used to reduce post-harvest losses and food waste. That is why we're here today, and that is why we're talking about youth. Continue. So when we do this, then sexy crops like the underutilized ones, my guava and my Cape gooseberry. Now you will see Jenambuko making gooseberry wine, gooseberry biscuits, gooseberry sweets, and everything. And I'm hoping next time we have this conference, those things will be put on the table. Next. And this is in Kenya. This is not things from the internet. All of this has happened just through a project funded by USAID. So now we're begging you for more money. You give us money and you'll see what we'll be able to do with it. Continue. And this is what I was telling you of South Sudan, papaya, jackfruit. This is South Sudan. Continue. These are just pictures. South Sudan, jackfruit. This is not somewhere in Asia. It's here. Continue. Imagine. So if we're able to do this, this is the last slide, where we're able to work together in partnerships, in creating technologies, whether they're production-based, whether they're digital-based, whether they're marketing technologies, whether they're those that reduce losses. We have to work together, and it's a must, 100% everybody. We must value add and make product diversification. In Kenya now we have sweets, guava sweets made from guava. Imagine, sweets and toffee from guava. We have really moved. But we're able to do this only by mechanization, which is another key one. It's a bit slow, but that's what we need to do. When we do this, then we create employment and jobs for our youth. So our youth don't have to keep wanting to go for white-collar jobs like where you sit and wait for money at the end of the month. Their salary is every day and every hour. So these are the steps towards commercialization and the steps towards including youth. The last slide. Next. Yeah, and those are my details. If you thought I gave a sexy presentation, you can talk to me, and I'm really interested particularly in the men, and if they're young too. I don't like old men. Thank you.